Good morning, guys. I'll show you real quick why you need to let your mid-2000s Chevy, at least half tons, warm up a little bit when it's really, really cold out. So first of all, I'm a big proponent of slight warming up just because it'll help you get your windshield clear. This is that weird kind of frost where if you try to scrape it, it doesn't really go anywhere. So that's number one. Number two, though, and kind of more importantly, is these 4L60s absolutely hate when they are really, really cold. It's 5 degrees out. This thing, as it is, won't shift. There we go. Really quickly at all when it's this cold out. And you'll find that if it's 5 degrees and you take off immediately, this thing will rev up to like 3,000 RPM and just absolutely send it into second gear, shake the whole truck, So you wind up with this really, really harsh shift. You're just shocking the driveline. Everything's super cold. The engine's kind of revving more than you'd want it to. It's overall much more unhealthy than letting your engine get a little bit of idle hours, in my opinion. And I don't know if you could hear it right there because I was yapping, but it even kind of revved up and took a minute to shift there. And like my whole commute for the first section here is super steep hills. And so in an effort to not try to chew up the brakes, it's like you want to use a little bit of engine braking. So I want a little bit of heat in my motor because when I pop this thing into first gear, you know, I'm at 2,300 RPM unless I want to just crawl down this steep hill. So I really want a little bit of engine temperature to deal with that amount of RPM because that's like, at least in my opinion, a little bit higher than I would like to be at on a freshly started engine with literally 5-degree oil. Maybe that's more my paranoia than anything else, but that's how I feel. The other comment I would have is, was that hyper flashing? No, we're good. I don't know why I thought that was hyper flashing. Comment I would have though is, at least with like an LS motor in this truck's case, you know, generally speaking, the engine is not the weak link in a half-ton mid-2000s Silverado. Everything else in the driveline's the weak link combined. But definitely not the engine in most cases. So that's also where I'm like, if I can help do something that's easier on the transmission, but maybe a little bit harder on the engine, that's a very much a worthy trade-off. You know, the 5.3 that was originally in this truck, you know, outlasted 3 transmissions. So, you know, it's like kind of an obvious solution there. Try to take care of the thing that's going to die sooner. You know, that kind of deal. There's a lot of whole stories behind why there are so many transmissions. But anyway, say that's your best bet, at least with these specifically. This is a Built-A-Trans. I'm sure it could technically take the abuse, but I don't really want it to. And then the one other thing I want to show you is, when we pull out onto this next road here, I'll be able to. Fun fact, while we wait for the light to turn green, heated seats are your best friend for trying to drive a truck or a car when it's cold out and not let it warm up, as they at least keep your tushy warm and your back warm when you're waiting for the interior cab temp to come up. So, big heated seat fan personally. Call me soft. I am, but I like my heated seats. All right, we are pulling up, and I want to show you something. So there's second, third. Right now we have some engine temp if you look over to the right. But here's the interesting thing. We're at a speed where we should be dropping into fourth. However, the transmission's not up to 75-degree fluid temp, so it won't do it. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. That's not what I meant to say. So we're at a temperature where it should drop into torque converter lockup. It will drop into fourth at any temperature, I believe, but it won't go into torque converter lockup. You can see that converter is still flaring. See? And it won't do that until the temperature of the transmission reaches 75 degrees. They do this on purpose to help the engine come up to temp, help the trans come up to temp. So it's actually a good thing. But I will say the trade-off of fuel economy of driving around, and it just locked in, I think. Nope, it didn't yet. The trade-off of fuel economy driving around unlocked as compared to idling a little bit, you probably don't really gain or lose anything either way. So that little extra idle, just to help that transmission shift on very, very early takeoffs when it's bitter cold out, I think is well worth whatever extra fuel you might burn. And like I said, I don't really think it's much more because with your torque converter unlocked in fourth, going highway speeds, you're slipping the crap out of that converter, burning fuel. It won't hurt anything. I mean, when you're towing, you're unlocked a lot. It's fine. It's not going to really do any damage as long as you have a big enough cooler, which in these temperatures, you don't even need a cooler, frankly, and you'll be fine. But, yeah, just something to kind of consider. There's more to your vehicle on a very cold start and drive away than just the engine. I do think people miss out on that sometimes. So just look at all the factors. If you have a vehicle with a very weak rear end or a very weak kind of advanced center differential, transfer case, maybe there's reasons to do certain things differently because of that. Now, a lot of components like a rear end, like a differential, don't really change temperature until you start driving, but maybe you drive very softly or slowly at first just to make sure you don't grenade your rear end or diff or whatever it is. So just different strategies you guys can use to keep your vehicle running as long as possible in cold weather. Lastly, I should add to this, if you are going to idle your vehicle more in the winter, you can help mitigate the effects of that by just changing the fluid more, change the oil more. And again, I think changing your oil, let's say 1,000 or 2,000 miles earlier than you normally would when it's cold out in order to save your transmission and then also keep your engine happy, I think it's well worth the trade-off personally. So it just depends on what you're driving. A lot of vehicles, my Ford 7.3 gas Godzilla doesn't really care as much if you just kind of hop in it and take off. I still like to let things warm up just a tiny bit, but that one's much less finicky. This older truck with a little bit older transmission technology, she gets cranky if you just kind of hop in and go in certain ways. And by the way, this transmission's still not locked up in torque converter. So I'm in third right now because I was passing. Let's let it shift. Yeah, so we're not locked up. We're in fourth. And wait for it. I'll just get into it a little bit. See that? 2,500 install torque converter. And we're not locked up. So I got all the power in the world, but I don't need it right now. So we're burning a lot of fuel just holding extra RPM with a loose-ish converter. There it goes. You hear it? Just locked in. So think about this, guys. Think about this. About 8 or 9 minutes into my trip, going pretty good speeds. A lot of it was downhill, but that transmission fluid just hit 75 degrees Fahrenheit from being at 5 degrees Fahrenheit. So your transmission takes a lot longer than you think to heat up, potentially, when you don't have a thermostat like a newer vehicle does and all that sort of thing. So my engine oil temp, I can guarantee you, it's hotter than that, of course, but it's still not probably at full operating temperature. So you don't want to just be beating on the engine just because your water temp is all the way up. That's not a good idea. You're gonna do some damage in the long term because things are just not ready to be abused yet. So like if I was towing a trailer and it took me roughly this long to get up to temp, I need to wait another 5-10 miles before I even think about a harder acceleration with that trailer, especially. So rear end fluid, transfer case, none of that stuff is that warm. I bet you if that transmission's at 75, I bet that rear end's only at 100 right now, or 110, 120. So, and some of that stuff doesn't matter as much. They can handle cooler temperatures. But anyway, I'm rambling on about this, but I just want to kind of give you a little bit of perspective, depending on what you're driving, and know your vehicle, know your temperatures, how that specific car or truck interacts with the environment. So anyways, guys, as always, thanks for watching. God bless America, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.